Now, I don't know how many of you know this or not, but I don't agree with everything this man says. Do I respect what he does? Absolutely. Do I respect 98% of what he stands for? Absolutely. So what I find in my career is there's moments in time where we have to discuss and dissect things that happen in the background. There was a letter written several weeks ago, and to not dissect this letter for the depth of depravity that it represents would be irresponsible journalism. So I'm going to take time. You see, a group of people decide to get together, a Trump resistance group, and pen a letter that is more dangerous than most could ever imagine it is. It is so unhinged in its representation of not only this country, but our Constitution. It is absolutely chilling in what I'm about to present to you. We're going to go through why they state that no American is safe, what they mean by that, and what they mean by what they state about President Trump. And that's the story I'll bring you in just 1 minute. Now, this letter was referenced in this article. James Comey case jeopardizes Americans' free speech rights. Retired judges warn. A group of retired judges said Trump continues to corruptly abuse the power of his office by directing the Justice Department to target his critics and his perceived political enemies. Now, I get worried anytime I see old intelligence experts, retired judges, retired intelligence officials. Immediately a red flag goes off because they somehow magically all of a sudden came up with a group of retired individuals or ex-officials who suddenly come up with a structured response to dissect or destroy something that just happened. So I dug deeper. The article starts out by stating, the Trump administration's case against former FBI Director James Comey should be a warning sign to Americans, 42 retired judges wrote in an open letter first obtained by NBC News. Boy, isn't that convenient. In their letter, the former federal and state judges warned that the rights and liberties of every American are in grave danger today, as President Donald Trump continues to corruptly abuse the power of his office by directing the United States Department of Justice and the Federal Bureau of Investigations to target his critics and his perceived political enemies for investigation and criminal prosecution, because I guess that's never happened before in the past. It's only happened now, but don't worry, we're going to go through the letter. It's not a long one, so it's fairly easy to dissect and demolish and destroy. Because Matt Taibbi, in his blog here, actually went through it himself and realized the danger of this letter. And thankfully, he wasn't the only one, because Red State also caught onto it. Susie Bohr went through and deconstructed the narrative. So between those three reference points and reference points of my own, we're going to go ahead and dissect why this is so dangerous. Because the mainstream media doesn't utilize it for that purpose. No, they put it out to frame in a different narrative, to shape the opinion, the public opinion. And that is in itself a very dangerous mechanism. Understanding, as you know, I believe here, that the mainstream media is a soundbox, an isolated soundbox, of which the irresponsibility is in those who wish to make others believe that the Constitution is not what it represents. That President Trump, in his entirety, is trying to destroy the Constitution, to not enforce the Constitution. First, a word about signatories. We'll start there. Top of the list is Judge Michael Luttig, which we've talked about many times, a former circuit court judge for the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit. Now, I didn't have to look at it because we've discussed him many times in the past. His name may sound familiar, as he is a frequent talking head on legacy media outlets sounding the alarm about the orange man bad. And this tracks right in alignment with that. Many of the other names I didn't recognize, nor did the author of the Red State article, and none were from her home state of Missouri. Surprisingly, few were from what we would consider red states, which should be right there to start to fit the narrative. Plenty were from California, Massachusetts, and New York, again, start to shape the narrative. Bearing in mind that these are all retired judges, and thus wouldn't be of recent vintage, the most charitable reading of political affiliation as to the judges or the executives who appointed them is that the list consists of 75% Democrat and 25% Republican, but is that told to you in the article or the average readership? Of course it's not. Just that Orange Man bad. His executive orders are wrong, and what he did to James Comey is unconstitutional. But we'll have to read the letter itself, that there may be 2 or 3 judges on this list who still vote Republican. Only 2 or 3. So here's the letter. It was dated September 30th, I told you several weeks ago. The rights and liberties of Americans are protected by the Constitution and the rule of law. Okay, you got that sentence right. Those rights and liberties of every American are in grave danger today. Again, they were in grave danger when President Biden was in office, but I don't feel they're in grave danger today. But they state in the next sentence that those rights and liberties of every American are in grave danger today as President Donald Trump continues to corruptly abuse the power of his office by directing the United States Department of Justice and Federal Bureau of Investigation to target his critics and his perceived political enemies for investigation and criminal prosecution. Now my question would be, where were these judges when President Biden did the same? Where were they when the FBI targeted President Trump? Where were they when they raided Mar-a-Lago? Where were they when Crossfire Hurricane was illegally launched? Where were they during the multitude of those investigations when those political enemies were targeted? Where were they when President Biden directed Google to censor those with politically opposing viewpoints? Where were they? You see, you start to already get a sense that this may be a political dissent piece, of course framed in as these were judges who are to be even keel, nonpartisan. My friends, these are the danger when you have these statements from ex-officials or ex-judges, as they still want to state. But this is only the beginning, and we're going to go ahead and shred statement by statement. Now, before I go forward, as we do every broadcast, I want to thank you each again for helping this channel continue to grow. And to do so, just a few simple favors. To always let the algorithm know this news matters, I need you to always assure your bell is checked to all. If you're new here, welcome home. I'd love you to subscribe. As you've noticed, the count of this channel continues to grow, the viewership and the views, and I could only thank each and every one of you for that. The membership continues to grow. And why? Because you're commenting, you're sharing the video, you're joining as members, you're making sure your bell is checked, and that is all it takes to make sure that YouTube and the public platforms know this news matters. Those of you who have joined our family at Restricted Republic, that is our news platform. Lisa Haven and I own. We built for you to bring you the news that we can't bring to the public platforms because we respect their rules and regulations. So what do? We take the news that can only exist elsewhere and we put it on our public platform. That is only audience-funded news. No commercials, no interruptions. We're beholden to no one but my wife and me. It's the best way to get the news. All our broadcasts, anywhere we air them, are aired with no commercials and interruptions, exclusive content almost daily. And trust me, it is the only source for news. I also want to give a special thanks to this amazing company who helps me bring you so many of these videos. Their name is Chapter. Just so you know, it's Medicare enrollment period. It's coming up. It's October 15th to December 7th. Why is that significant, and why is Chapter significant? They helped me to bring you this video today. Because they're free. It's a free phone call. 805-619-5011. What are they? They're licensed Medicare professionals During this time of year, seniors get absolutely bombarded with robocallers, mailers, and why? Because it's open enrollment now. Medicare annual enrollment. Again, October 15th to December 7th. How do you get through all the options? Some things just disappear this time of year. Some of the plans just go away. They change every single year. Well, Chapter are the experts in this. And by calling and making a free phone call, in under 20 minutes, they can help choose for you and show you all the options as to what the best plan is. And if you don't check, even if you think you have the best plan right now, you can lose your doctors or you can end up overpaying. So what's a free phone call hurt? Most agents, they're designed to just steer you to the plan that makes them the most money. That is not what Chapter does. They find the best plan for you. They're just designed different. The average person who calls them saves $1,100 a year. And remember, they can review all these plans for you in under 20 minutes. That is how their system's designed, and you're talking to a live person. If you're already on the best plan, they'll tell you that. If not, they'll help you switch. But remember, don't wait till the last minute. Call today so you can enjoy the rest of the year with peace of mind that you are in the best Medicare plan. That enrollment period, October 15th to December 7th. That phone number, 805-619-5011. That cost, $0. If you think you got the best plan, maybe you do. Let them tell you that. If they find out you don't, they're going to help put money in your pocket. I don't see how this isn't a win-win by calling that phone number. Give Chapter a call today. But now let's get back to this broadcast. So let's go to the next statement. His every threat and every pretextual investigation and prosecution further corrupts American democracy. Oh, you know how much I hate that word. And rule of law. His every pretextual investigation and prosecution. As if there is been no rules broken. There's been no laws broken. He's simply to turn a blind eye to everything that's happened. Remember, this was in response to James Comey, as if James Comey broke no rules or laws. So for everything President Trump does to prosecute those that did anything potentially illegal, he is only to turn a blind eye. That's what they desire. And if he doesn't turn a blind eye, just wait for it. He's violating the First Amendment and the rights of every American. That's truly what they want you to believe. This is beyond reprehensible. In the United States of America, the Constitution forbids President Trump from ordering the unfounded prosecution of his perceived political adversaries and his critics. Congratulations, President Trump. You appear in the United States Constitution. In the United States of America, the Constitution forbids President Trump from ordering the unfounded prosecution of perceived political adversaries. No, it forbids all presidents, not President Trump. All presidents. But you don't state that, do you? Because President Biden did the same now, didn't he? So I state that this is partisan, of course written by those who are primarily Democrats. This is a partisan hack job, put out to the national audience as if it's not, to defend James Comey, remembering that they're stating, of course, that this is a violation of American rights. While the Constitution does not prevent President Trump from firing federal prosecutors, it does not. No prosecutor should ever be fired for refusing to bring baseless charges against President Trump's political adversaries and critics. So the author of the article states, okay, again, they skip right past the acknowledgement of that which is within the purview of the president and the right into prejudging the case against Comey and pronouncing the charges against him baseless and due to his criticism of Trump. Likely criticism of Trump is a rarity. Read that again. They skip right past the acknowledgement of that which is within the purview of the president and right into prejudging the case against Comey, which is what they do so eloquently. They took the facts of the case and threw them away. These are judges. But I digress. Yet that is exactly what Donald Trump has done. He has fired his own prosecutors because they refuse to pursue criminal charges against Americans for whom he harbors personal animus. And then he has immediately installed hand-picked replacements who has pursued the investigation or indictments that their predecessors declined to bring, despite reportedly being told that there was insufficient evidence to bring charges. But there was evidence to bring charges because charges were brought. The reason this letter was written is because they disagree with the charges. Does this go as case law? Because thus far, I've seen no case law cited. All I've seen is opinion. As a consequence of President Trump's actions over the past 9 months that he has been in the presidency, no American is safe. No American is safe from criminal prosecution. Just think about that conclusion, what reference you're drawing there. Regardless of whether they have violated the law, and regardless of their political or ideological views. Hyperbolic, to say the least. Are they contending that the Constitution no longer affords American protections? Because that's exactly what they're stating. And weren't they just saying that Trump was going after his political adversaries? But now it's just anyone and everyone. So which is it? You must ask the judges that. Political adversaries or everyone? Because you're trying to paint the case now for what? Oh, that's right. You're trying to make a point. But the point is not connected. Is it political adversaries or is it every American's? Every American. You see, you're trying to stoke fear. The fear that President Trump is going after literally every single American. That's a scary statement, isn't it? Do you see the irresponsibility in this article? Most would have missed it, just passed by it, as if it was nothing. But we can't do that here. For the first time in American history, the bedrock First Amendment right of American citizens to disagree with their president and their government and to express their views and opinions on any matter they wish, including their president, is under unprecedented attack by the President of the United States. Really? Really? How many channels were taken down when people expressed their disagreement on the pandemic because President Biden asked them to be taken down? I guess that was a disagreement with your president, but this is the first time in American history. That's a very convenient truth. So I guess that the fine folks were asleep during the Biden years. No familiarity with Missouri versus Biden, Murphy versus Missouri. No awareness of the Twitter files or Google's recent admission of the YouTube accounts it took down or Facebook Meta's acknowledgement of the same actions. More importantly, what on God's green earth does the First Amendment have to do with the charges against Comey? Nothing. Or they're contending that there aren't federal statutes to criminalize making false statements to Congress or interfering with congressional proceedings. That Saint Comey is somehow immune from their application because he also happens to be a critic of Trump. He's not being charged for his criticisms or veiled threats against Trump, mind you. No. Also, the Department of Redundancy Department is calling regarding the highlighted portions above. So then why publish the article? Because if you're a journalist, you'd realize what they were doing, but what you did is you published a political hit piece, a partisan hack job, which they always do. And it's why faith in media is completely eroding, because this isn't journalism. It's political hack jobs. All Americans have an obligation as citizens of this great country to speak out against this unprecedented attack on our freedoms of speech and to demand that Donald Trump's attacks on our rights to speak freely without fear of being persecuted and prosecuted by our government must stop now. Again, as the author states, how is Comey's prosecution an attack on freedom of speech? Are these former jurists genuinely contending that the First Amendment protects false statements in congressional proceedings? Because that is what it appears they're contending. And again, I suppose it's nice they decide to wake up and decide that the government suppression of free speech is now a bad thing. But before, circa 2020, 2021, and 2022, it was absolutely okay. Oh, that's right, because that was against Republicans. But now it's against Democrats, according to them, it's not okay, even though it's completely inapplicable in this case. Lastly, what are they actually hoping to accomplish with this? Do they think that this will gin up enough outrage and angry calls to the DOJ that they'll reverse course and decide to drop the case against Comey? Is that how they think the judicial system is supposed to work? Is that how they decided cases when they sat on the bench? With enough outrage and outreach that simply decisions would change? So who exactly drafted this letter must be your real question. I don't know how closely those who signed it actually read it, just like those intelligence officials who signed the letter that they signed. How deeply they thought about it before they signed it. I don't know, other than giving it a thrill up the leg of those who already agree with them, how effective it will be. It's just another virtue signal. And I'm thoroughly embarrassed by the way the author of this article is one of the most ardent supporters of the judicial system you could ever read, but now is thoroughly embarrassed that those who once served in the judicial system signed this letter. But isn't that the state of our union? And an important letter to really dissect and read, to understand, as I'm going to do in a next broadcast, about how the leftists and globalists have melded together into one very, very ugly mechanism. And I will contend that the judiciary is one in the same. And that is what is the parallel government that President Trump is working so hard to fight against. I love you all. Until next time, Godspeed and God bless. Justice Knight, signing out.